Right now at 6, parents put their children in her care.
A daycare owner facing 2 child assault charges.
Boston police deploying a dive team to the Charlestown Navy Yard, hoping to find clues that would land them a suspect after a man was found dead on his houseboat.
2 storms coming in from the west coast. The first one arrives on Thursday. We have the timeline.
Is this real? Is this happening? Is this possible?
Stuck 5,000 feet up Mount Washington, a Massachusetts hiker tells the story of her and her friend's incredible rescue.
They saved our lives.
NBC10 Boston News at 6 starts right now.
Tonight, a Natick daycare remains open after one of its 2 owners is being charged with assault and battery for allegedly mishandling children. Good evening, everyone. I'm Colton Bradford.
And I'm Priscilla Casper. Now, we learned some details about the incident from today's court appearance. Our NBC10's Malcolm Johnson joining us from Natick. Malcolm, what are you learning about the charges these owners are facing?
Well, the details of some of the charges, Priscilla, are pretty disturbing. They allege that one of the co-owners of this daycare picked up and slammed a child and had a history of being forceful with children. At this Natick daycare, Ladd and Lassie, the co-owner, is accused of assaulting 2 young children. Today in Natick District Court, 57-year-old Sandra Downer pled not guilty to 2 counts of assault and battery in connection with incidents last year at the daycare. Court paperwork alleges on October 3, 2024, Downer angrily pushed a crib with a child in it. The pushing of the crib caused the child to fall and strike his head on the crib railing. Then, 4 days later, Downer is seen on camera picking a child up by one arm, lifting her off the floor, and forcibly putting her in a seat. That same day, court paperwork says she was seen on video forcibly picking up and slams her back down into the bed before wrapping her tightly in a blanket. Police say each of the incidents were captured on camera. When Downer was interviewed by police, she said that she hadn't been paid all summer and that she was having difficulty paying her bills. We tried speaking with Sandra, but she did not respond. And within the last 5 minutes, I did hear from a parent that wishes to remain anonymous. I'll read to you what they texted me. They said, what Sandra did was absolutely horrible and she should never be allowed to work with children again. But we have full faith in Jody, the other owner of the daycare, and we have not and do not plan to pull our child from the center. Jody did everything right in reporting Sandra to authorities. And we know that Sandra is scheduled to report back in court next month. For now, we're live reporting in Natick. I'm Malcolm Johnson, NBC10 Boston.
Malcolm, thank you. Let's get a check outside now. Time for first alert weather. Calm skies and dry roads today as we look at people bundled up. This is in South Boston. However, we are tracking an incoming wintry mix, bringing snow, rain, and ice right here to New England. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Pete Bouchard joining us now with the details and just how much snow we could possibly be getting.
We're thinking 2 to 4 out of this one. Yeah, it's a big thump of snow, and then it goes over to a little bit of mix, but we're still in the wind right now. How about those gusts? 45 the current gust in Fitchburg, 38 is the gust in Boston, gusting over 35 in Provincetown. Low temperatures tonight after the wind subsides. We get back into the teens. This is setting the table for that snow on Thursday. And we're not worried about tomorrow starting up with any snow or ending with any snow. We might see an increase in clouds later on, but we're only in the 20s for highs tomorrow. Let's get to the timeline on this storm, right? Thursday morning. Well, we're thinking mid-morning it arrives. Here we are at 10 o'clock. The first wave of snow is just getting into the North Shore and the South Shore and out through Cape Cod. And also we're into it through Metro West and into Worcester. So we're thinking 9 to 10 o'clock, maybe time for it to start, maybe as early as 8 with a few flakes. But once we start, it'll go downhill pretty quickly. That big burst of snow is just that in the first few hours. That's where we get most of our accumulation. Then we'll go over to a mix at noontime and then maybe some rain along the coastline on the South Shore of Cape Cod too to finish things off in the afternoon. This should all wrap up between about 5 and 6 o'clock, maybe even 7 at the latest, but less than 2 inches from the canal all the way up through the South Shore. You can see it a little bit closer here. Weymouth is involved in that. The 2 to 4 goes all the way up through southern New Hampshire. Then you jump up to the 4 to 6 north of Milford, New Hampshire, and north of Epping, too. So this is a wet, heavy snow, too. Keep that in mind as the temperatures rise. Starts fluffy and goes wet. We'll get into another storm on Sunday and more storms next week. It's a busy pattern. Stay with us.
Pete, thank you. A busy street in Dorchester has been blocked off after power lines and poles came down. Sky Ranger was over Center Street around the stretch of road. This is right near Dorchester Avenue. Eversource tells us 25 customers are currently affected. They believe the downed poles and wires were likely caused by strong winds. Of course, we'll keep you updated as we continue to learn more.
In Leominster, police are looking for armed robbers who tied up the owner of an electronics shop at gunpoint. Police sharing these surveillance images of the two men inside the Sam and Friends on North Main Street. Both of these men are considered armed and dangerous. The pair were in a blue or gray Honda CRV with stolen Pennsylvania license plates. Both men are believed to be around 25 to 35 years old and wearing black jackets. Contact police if you have any information.
Developing at 6, a person of interest in a death investigation at the Charlestown Marina is facing a judge in city court earlier today. So far, she's being held on warrants unrelated to the Charlestown case.
However, prosecutors say she was arrested at the scene where a man in his 60s was found dead. And today, divers with the Boston Police Department are plunging into the waters, hoping to surface with answers about Sunday night's deadly discovery. Our NBC10's Oscar Margain joining us live along those docks with the very latest tonight. Oscar.
Yeah, guys, as you mentioned, the woman being considered a person of interest at this point, while authorities here are stopping short from describing the case as a homicide. They say all of that can change if the medical examiner and once the medical examiner turns over the results of an autopsy. A Boston police dive team seen searching the waters of the Charlestown Navy Yard for evidence on Tuesday. The investigation centering around this houseboat where a man described by his neighbors as in his late 60s was found dead Sunday night.
We have Nora Nelson in court here today.
And leading prosecutors to name 24-year-old Nora Nelson a person of interest.
At this point, the defendant is a person of interest in this suspicious death.
Nelson was allegedly the only one at the scene that night. Police arrested her for an unrelated case dating back to 2023 and 2024, in which she allegedly assaulted her romantic partner and responding officers.
The officers tried to physically restrain her with handcuffs. She began to cave officers on scene and did by an officer.
The assistant district attorney failed to convince the judge to hold Nelson under a high bond, citing outstanding warrants out of Texas and linking her to the Charlestown death.
It's a kind of bootstrap. They try to hold my client because they think or they speculate that she might be involved.
While Nelson deals with her legal trouble, Boston investigators work to land a suspect. Those who live in and around the Navy Yard hoping police can soon crack the case.
Anything that's disturbing would, is unsettling, but really we feel so safe here.
I lost a lot of friends over the years, to gang violence and things like that, and so it's sad. So hopefully they'll get to the bottom of it and figure it out.
Now, the judge in the case ended up ordering Nelson wear a GPS monitor. Her bond was set at $7,500, much lower than what prosecutors were asking for. This while investigators here continue to wait for those autopsy results, which could contain evidence they need in order to charge somebody. Reporting live in Charlestown, Oscar Margain, NBC10 Boston.
Oscar, thank you. The family of a Lexington boy killed in a boating accident is suing the Boy Scouts of America. So back in the summer of 2023, 11-year-old Keone Hubbard was swimming in Manning Lake in New Hampshire. He was killed when a boat propeller struck him.
8 scouts, including Keone, ages 11 to 14, were placed on a small sport boat by an organization that irresponsibly entrusted the care and safety of those children to an utterly unqualified young boat operator.
In addition to Scouting America, the Hubbard family is also suing the teenager who was operating that boat.
Boston City Council could vote on a new policy banning counselors from using non-disclosure agreements. That proposal comes while Counselor Tanya Fernandez Anderson is facing a 6-count federal indictment for an alleged kickback scheme. According to this indictment, Fernandez Anderson required her staff to sign NDAs as a condition of their employment. Several counselors are looking to ban the ability of enforcing NDAs on staff members, though others say it is routine in political offices.
Boston City councilors are intensifying their push for school bus cameras to keep children safe. Councilors Enrique Pepin and John Fitzgerald are asking for a formal hearing tomorrow. They want to know when Boston Public Schools and the Boston Police Department will start using cameras to go after drivers illegally passing stopped buses. In their request, they noted the recent success of the camera program in Peabody, claiming their cameras spotted 850 drivers just blowing past stopped buses over the course of 5 weeks.
Josh Kraft has officially joined the 2025 Boston mayoral race. He'll be challenging incumbent Michelle Wu and is describing himself as an underdog. That's despite his name recognition and, of course, his resources. Housing, climate, and bike lanes are top points that Kraft intends to focus on as he works towards City Hall this November. And Kraft has wasted no time in sharing his vision for the city's future.
We have a plan to jumpstart a bunch of projects that have been on the sidelines. We have a plan that landlords can voluntarily opt in to rent control, because in the end, availability equals affordability. We need more units.
Analysts say the path ahead will not be easy for either candidate, with vulnerabilities on each side.
Congressman Seth Moulton announcing a $3.5 million grant to stabilize and restore sand dunes along Short Beach in Nahant. Now, this is the largest grant ever awarded to the town. The project addresses protections for Nahant Road that connects Big Nahant to Little Nahant and the mainland. If this road were to flood, it would cut off residents from vital evacuation routes.
This federal FEMA funding will help reduce the risk of flood damage and coastal erosion along Nahant Road, increase resilience against future sea level rise, and protect critical infrastructure, homes, amazing historic sites like this, and businesses.
The Nahant Short Beach Dune restoration will restore more than half a mile of dune, raising its height from its current 14 feet to 18 feet.
It's been over a year since a prominent Roxbury Walgreens shut its doors.
But now that space will soon have a new tenant. The Brockton-based Vicente supermarket confirming it is expanding into the former Warren Street location. The Walgreens closed last January amid pushback, citing concerns over access to medications and pharmaceutical needs in a historically low-income neighborhood. It's unclear when Vicente's will open its new location.
All right, still to come on the news at 6, a mile above the ground and no idea where to go. 2 local hikers lost their way on Mount Washington.
You can imagine how scary that was. They are safe tonight and they are speaking with us.
Can we be in this situation? Is this us? Because we read about this all the time.
Hear them relive those terrifying moments and how they were eventually rescued.
And getting ready for the next rescue, local firefighters preparing for what happens when someone falls through the ice in Bedford.
And a story of a baby who just couldn't wait. A mom and dad from New Hampshire end up giving birth at home with the help of a 911 operator. Well, today they got to meet the emergency personnel who helped them all through it.
And ahead on NBC Nightly News, order up and prices up. A major breakfast chain is charging more for eggs. What it means for you as the bird flu grips the entire country. That is ahead on NBC Nightly News at 6:30.